I want to share with you the metaphor that I'm using right now for what's going on, and I'll go into the Limitless Model. The Limitless Model is a three-part framework to help learn anything faster, but also it's a framework for unlocking human potential. I believe the infinite resource that we have on planet Earth is the power of our mind. There is no limit to your creativity. There's no limit to your innovation, your ability to solve problems. There's no limit to your imagination. There's no limit to human determination. And I love the theme of a beacon, you know, that shining light. And the metaphor that I'm using right now for myself, because I believe metaphors help have an effect, just like words have effect on your brain, like Gio was talking about, so do the way we compare things to and relate things together. So the metaphor I'm using right now is that of a metamorphosis. Like, you know, when we're thinking about transformation, the ultimate transformation, going from a caterpillar to a butterfly, we're going through a life cycle. And some of you feel like you're cocooning right now. We're physically distancing ourselves. We're not socially distancing ourselves, because again, words have meaning. We're being very social right now. I think where the challenge is, we have to physically distance ourselves, but we don't have to mentally distance ourselves. We don't have to emotionally distance ourselves. Or socially distance ourselves. And I think those are very important distinctions when we talk about the power of words. But when we're cocooning, sometimes when we're alone, we're also alone with our thoughts. We're alone with our doubts. We could be alone with our fears. We could be feeling alone, you know, or we could be feeling contained or trapped in a way. And the metaphor I just feel like we're in is this. There's a story about this boy who was in the backyard, finds a caterpillar and runs into the house and says, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, can I keep this caterpillar as a pet?" And she says, "Yes, you can, as long as you take care of it. You feed it." And she gives him a mason jar, and he goes out, puts the caterpillar carefully into the mason jar, fills it full of leaves so the caterpillar could eat, and puts a little branch in there for it to climb. And the caterpillar just eats and eats and eats and eats. And then one day, it's in its plump state, it climbs up the tree branch that's inside the jar, and he starts spinning a web around himself. The caterpillar spins a web, and like a cocoon, if you will. And the boy just watches in utter amazement and bewilderment, and is completely fascinated. And one day, his patience pays off. There's a little crack in the cocoon, and he could see the creature trying to emerge, but it's really struggling. It's struggling really, really hard. And maybe because the boy becomes a little impatient and wants to help, he runs into the home and grabs a pair of scissors. He walks back outside because he knows he's not supposed to run with those scissors because he was taught by his parents. And he clips that hole open a little bit. And as soon as he does, a creature falls out. But to his surprise, the boy's surprise, it doesn't look like a full-fledged butterfly. In fact, its body is very swollen. Its wings are very shriveled. And the boy is expecting it to transform and to be able to soar, to be able to fly, right? Like, we all want to come out stronger and smarter when we come out of this cocoon, and it doesn't, though. And he goes misty-eyed into the house to tell his mom what had happened. And the mom asked what he did, and he said that he was trying to help the butterfly get out by clipping the hole open. And she explained to him, because he did that, the butterfly didn't have to struggle. And really what happens is when the creature is trying to come out of that little hole, it pushes the fluids from the body into the wings, and it nourishes the wings so they could grow strong. And so while the beauty is in the butterfly, the growth happens in the cocoon. And I want to give you really quickly, before I go into the Limitless Model, I want to give you 5 things that I'm just recommending friends and clients do while they're cocooning. I mean, we go through a wide range of emotions while we're going through this, and I'm not saying not to do anything particularly. You know, feel what you need to feel, go through this human experience, this unique experience that the world is going through, and also ask yourself this question: you know, is this serving me? Is this behavior? Is this getting me what more of what I need right now? And so the 5 quick things, I'll make them 5 C's because I alliterate everything, and you can put these in your notes. And the first one is clarity. I think solitude is a wonderful time for self-reflection. And to find clarity is kind of like a reset of what's going on. You have time for yourself. And it's a nice time. Sometimes when you're going 90 miles an hour, it's hard to kind of check in with yourself. And so why not use this time to ask yourself this question: which is what's most important to me in blank. You know, what's most important to me in my career, what's most important to me in my relationships, what's most important to me in my life. You know, how we're going to emerge from this eventually. And my question for everybody, you know, talking about the X-Men and Days of Future Past and going up, you know, forward all these years, looking back, what's the story you want to tell a decade from now to your family, to your friends? Because we're writing that story right now. And so clarity, you ask yourself what's most important, and you also ask yourself, are my present actions in line with those values? So it's a nice check-in point. Number two, besides clarity, I would say in no particular order is care. We've all heard that self-care is not selfish. And I'm not just talking about physical hygiene. You know, we know we should be washing our hands and sanitizing everything, but what about our mental hygiene? One of the challenges with what's going on in the world is our brain primarily is a deletion device and is trying to keep information out, because there's a billion stimuli you could be paying attention to at any given time. And so what if it all came in at once, we would go mad. We'd be on overload. So only certain things come in, and those are things that we deem important, you know, derived from like things like our questions that we're asking ourselves. And here's the thing though, your mind has an algorithm much like social media does. If you're on Instagram or Facebook and you start liking and commenting on all the cat posts, for example, that algorithm is going to show you a whole lot more cats. Is that right? Is that true? And it's going to show you more of what you're looking for. And my challenge with what's going on in the news is I think it's good to know what's going on so you can make a good decision. But remember, there's a difference between a thermometer and a thermostat. A thermometer just is always reacting to everything, but a thermostat gauges intelligently what's going on and then keeps its vision, it keeps its goal in mind, and then the environment reacts to it. So you have the power, because here's the thing, just like when you start seeing cat videos or cat posts all the time with that algorithm, if you focus on what's dark all the time and we just start seeing everything, your mind just starts feeding you darkness. And what happens is you're not shining a beacon or a light on what's possible. You're not shining a light on opportunity that Gio talked about in terms of crisis and opportunity, you know, and then this potential danger. So here's the thing is, how are you taking care of yourself? And we're going to do in our breakout session, I'm going to ask everybody to go around and share their one thing in each of these categories. So it's important to write it down. What are you doing for clarity, or what's most important to you in life? Number two is, what's one thing you could do for your own personal care? Number three, third C, I would write down is contribution. So I think the best way of getting out of fear, because chronic stress shrinks your brain. We know that. Chronic fear really wreaks havoc on your immune system. It really makes you more susceptible to colds, to viruses, you know, to challenges. And so having that fear is a big challenge. So one of the antidotes for me for fear is service. When you put even when I talk about butterflies, I get butterflies every single time I go on stage. It's just, Gio knows, I'm very introverted, and like, it feels like my whole life has been preparing for like this moment. But I go on stage still, even with the butterflies as a metaphor, because all I do is turn a switch. I just focus on one person in the audience and I feel zero fear, right? And so how can you contribute during this time? Your talent, your treasure. What's your unique way? For example, for me on Saturday, I'm doing a free on Instagram, like a 90-minute training for students, because with schools shut down and people learning virtually, and I feel like the topics that were not taught in school are some of the most important topics, not what to learn and what to think, but how to learn and how to think. So I'm just that's my unique way of contributing, right? But can you contribute and come up with one way? The fourth C, after clarity, care, contribution, I would say the fourth one would be, let's take creativity. People don't realize this, but you know, it was during the Great Plague that Shakespeare came up with Macbeth, came up with Arthur and Cleopatra, you know, some of his amazing works. And you've heard this before, you know, and it's when Isaac Newton, when they closed down London and his university, he had to distance himself and go home. And that's when the apple fell on his head, and he came up with the theories of motion, theories of gravity. So, you know, where can you create? What have you always wanted to write? or to what music or some form of art or that video that's been, you know, there, or that online program or whatever it is. This could be an extremely creative time, because I do believe the future belongs to the creatives. With everything even before this going to AI and automation, you know, what's not going to be outsourced to machines is your creativity, is your imagination, are things like strategy. So what can you create? I'm going to ask you just to think about that, to share in your group. And then finally, the last C, once you have clarity, you have care, you have contribution, you have creativity, there are capabilities. You know, I believe that it's a mistake to downgrade your dreams right now based on this current situation. You don't downgrade your dreams to fit this current situation. You upgrade your capabilities and your skills to be able to meet your dreams, right? Or to meet your destiny. So what's always, you know, you have your to-do list, what's on your to-learn list? And so what's that one thing you've always wanted to be able to learn? And it's great because nowadays we have unfettered access to everything. You can go on YouTube and learn salsa, or you can learn Spanish. There are amazing podcasts, you know, for many of you that publish podcasts and listen to podcasts, audiobooks. So what have you always wanted to learn? And so if the goal is to come out of this, you know, as that butterfly, if you could be wiser, if you could be stronger, if you could be smarter because of it, it's the choices. In my book, I open with a quote from a French philosopher that says, life is a C between the B and the D. Life is a C between B and D. Now, I'll give you a hint because I'm speaking in code right now. B stands for birth. What does D stand for? Say it out loud. Death. And C, life, comes down to choice. Right. Our lives are a series of choices that we've made, the sum total of right now to this point. And I'm asking, when you're going through these 5 C's, or what are the choices you're making daily for care, for clarity, you know, for contribution, for your creativity, for your ability to up-level your capabilities also as well. And so what I want to give you right now is one way you can be able to do that, which is the Sliminess Model. And I'll go through it super, super quick. And you see a representation of it on your worksheets. 3 circles, doesn't matter in what order they are, but all of them intersect like a Venn diagram. And I'm going to give you these 3 circles. And these is this book originally was a methodology book on speed reading, learning languages, facts, figures, TED Talks, everything from memory, focus, concentration, study skills. But I realized that if someone just found it, not everyone would get a result, because so many people buy books and it sits on your shelf and it becomes shelf help, not self-help. That one of the lies in mindset, I talk about these lies, limited idea entertain. It's not true. It's just an idea we choose to entertain, right? And one of the lies that I talk about is knowledge is power, but it's not, right? It's only potential power. It only goes power when we apply it, because all the podcasts, summits, online programs, books, none of it works unless we work. So here's the model in a nutshell, very quickly. The first circle is your mindset. I'm defining mindset as your assumptions or attitudes about something. Your attitudes or assumptions about the world, about yourself, about how things work. What would fall in this circle are things like what is possible, what you believe is possible, what you believe you're capable of, which is different. You believe something's possible, you might not believe that you're capable of it. What you believe you deserve would fall underneath that circle also. So I could teach you the last M, which is the methods on how to remember names. But if your mindset is, I'm just too old, or I'm not smart enough, or I have a horrible memory, your brain is like a supercomputer and your self-talk is a program that will run. So if you tell yourself, I'm not good at remembering names, you won't remember the name, right? Because you program your supercomputer not to. So that's mindset. The second M is motivation. Motivation. And here's the thing, there are these lies around motivation also. Like motivation, most people think about is excitement in the moment. They get motivated, but the next day they don't work out still. They still don't meditate. They still don't make those calls or script out that online funnel or whatever it is, you know, because motivation for them is like something that's temporary. There's a formula for motivation, human motivation, that I've discovered after 28 years of field experience of doing this with everyone from children with learning difficulties to seniors who are on stage dementia and everyone in between. The formula is this: to overcome procrastination, to always have your drive, is P times E times S3. P times E times S3. And what does that mean? Just very, very simple overview. P stands for purpose. And I don't mean your life purpose, although, you know, we address that big time. I mean like having a reason. because you don't have to enjoy. Here's another lie. The evidence that you're motivated is that you do something. It's not what you say, it's not how you feel, it's if you're actually doing that thing. If you are doing the working out or the study or whatever it is that you're saying you're going to be motivated to do. Now, I realize that you don't have to enjoy that workout in order to do it, because I know many people who work out every day at 4:30 in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning, and they say they hate it. You know, part of my morning routine is I take a cold shower every morning, or if you follow me on Instagram, I take like a 5-minute ice bath every morning. I'm in the Northeast. I'm in New York City. I grew up in this area. I hate the cold, you know, but I still do it. So it doesn't mean you have to enjoy it. Now I say bring joy to something if you can, right? You know, find the love in what you're doing, but it's not a prerequisite. So what is a prerequisite? 3 things. P is purpose, having a reason. I have a reason to take that cold shower because it lowers inflammation, it resets my nervous system, because it helps me to do difficult things. Because I think if you do the easy things in life, life gets hard. But if you do the hard things in life, life gets easier, right? To challenge myself. So I have a reason. So start with why, right? Simon Sinek. So ask yourself the reason. If you don't have a reason to remember someone's name, you're not going to remember the person's name. So have a real reason that you not only know here, but feel in your body. The E, really quickly, is energy. Meaning what I did was I did this thought experiment saying, okay, if I want to design the ultimate human being who's always motivated, if they just have a reason, will they 100% of the time be motivated? I said, no, if they lack energy, they won't. Because let's say you want to work out, but you didn't sleep the past 2 nights because you have a newborn, right? Or you're so stressed and have so much anxiety and you're always on social media checking in on what's going on in the world, and you lack the energy, you're not going to be motivated, right? Let's say you want to read 30 minutes a day, but you ate a big meal, processed junk food, which is not really a thing. There's junk and there's food, but let's say you're in a food coma, you lack the energy, you're not going to follow through on that reading, right? Because you lack energy. So we do a whole chapter on 10 things to have mental vitality and energy and to get rid of brain fog. And then in my mind went like this, as I wrap with this, once you have purpose and you have energy, is that person always motivated 100% of the time without exception? And I said, no, there is one exception. Somebody can have a big enough reason to make this change and to continue it. You know, they can have all the energy and abundance of energy, but if that thing is too big or it's too intimidating or it's too confusing, they're not going to take action. So S3 stands for small, simple step. And the question to get you that small, simple step is this: what is this tiniest action I could take to make progress towards this goal where I cannot fail? What's the tiniest action I could take to make progress towards this goal where I cannot fail? Because it requires so little effort and energy, right? Maybe it's not like, oh my, because so many people have this goal of like, I want to have the perfect body, or I want to meet my soulmate and live happily ever after. I want to build the next $1 billion, brand online, right? It's way too big. How can you chunk it down? Inch by inch, it's a cinch. Yard by yard, it's too hard. And then finally, the last M are the methods. Now we could talk about the methods. This is the process for doing this. You know, we talk about processes on how to focus, how to concentrate, how to study, how to speed read, how to memory. But if you don't have the mindset and the motivation right, the methods aren't going to be utilized. That was my big thing, is utilization. Now here's the caveat, and I'll take you into your exercise. Where mindset crosses over with motivation, you have something called inspiration. I'm gonna give you 3 I's. Where mindset and motivation mix and they cross over, because there are books on mindset. One of my favorite books by Carol Dweck, Mindset. And there are books on motivation, right? Motivation manifesto, books on motivation, and they're motivational speakers and mindset speakers. Where they cross over, you have inspiration. You have inspirational books, you have inspirational movies, you have inspirational speakers, right? But but people aren't doing something because they don't know what to do, right? They're inspired, but they don't know what to do. Where mindset crosses over with methods, you know it's possible and you know what to do in your mind. It's ideation. It just stays an idea, right? But you're lacking the motivation to actually do it. And finally, where motivation crosses over with methods, you're motivated, you have unlimited drive, and you know what to do, but you could still be stuck in that box because you're only going to be able to achieve what you believe is possible, or what you believe you're capable of, or what you believe you deserve, because all behavior is belief driven. So I take people through a process, and Joe, you appreciate this, like hero's journey is laid out that way, literally with a map, taking people from this ordinary to extraordinary, back returning with this treasure, because we go through a process called unlimiting, which is removing the barriers and the boundaries of what you believe is possible, what you believe you're capable of, real tactical. Now, here's the thing. When you have all 3 M's and 3 I's that connect right in, so that I, last I you're thinking about, Jim, open loop, is implementation. Implementation. And when you have all 3 of them together, all the 3 M's and 3 I's right in that sweet spot, that's integration, right? Integration, like integral, means whole. It means that's just who you are. That's the limitless state. But I give you this framework because if you feel like you're in a box where you're not, limitless is not about being perfect. Limitless is about progressing and advancing beyond what you currently believe is possible, right? And if you feel like you're in a box where you're not making progress in a career, in any area of your life, that 3-dimensional box, the 3 forces, dimensions that keep you in that box are your mindset, motivation, and the methods that you're using. And it takes the judgment out. You can actually look at it and analyze saying, where's my limit? Is it in my mindset? Do I not believe I deserve it or believe it's possible? Is it in do I not have purpose? Do I lack the energy? Do I need a small, simple step? Or am I using old methods of marketing or old methods of leadership or old methods of learning? And maybe I need to upgrade my methods. It also becomes a genius, like I believe genius leaves clues. It becomes a role modeling framework also as well. So let's do our exercise right now, because that was my 20 minutes. What we're going to do right now is we're going to go into our breakouts and we're going to revisit the 5 C's. And remember I said that life is the C between the B and the D, and B is birth, D is death, C is choice. What's one choice you can make while we are all cocooning together that you could share with your friends here, about maybe one for each category? What's one thing you could do for clarity, or what's most important to you in life? You can answer that question. What's one thing you could do for your own personal care that you're not currently doing? What's one thing you could contribute? Even if it's calling up and FaceTiming your neighbor because you know that, she might be alone, right? Whatever you contribute, what can you create? And then finally, what capability, what would you like to learn? And you're gonna have just 5 minutes to do this. So it's a minute each person. And
we're gonna, Jim, we'll make it 2 minutes each.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
So however long you have for it, you'll have those 5 C's. You're just going to share it. And the reason why the sharing session gets very specific, because you're going to be revealing things to, a little personal about what you value, how you look at personal care, how you also want to be creative, and it allows you to be able to relate on a new level. My final words for this is like, when the caterpillar thinks it's the end, it becomes the butterfly. Sometimes we have to go through and struggle sometimes through our worst days to be able to earn our best days. And that life is like that cocoon, that if cocoon is broken by an outside force, life ends. And if it's broken by an inside force, life begins. This is the model, by the way, that everybody should see. It should look like something like this. All right, mindset, methods, and motivation. And then ideation, inspiration, implementation. And that inside state is your limitless state. That is where you are limitless. That is where you are fully integrated.